Ancient Hermetic teachers believed most people were not trapped by life itself, but by the invisible patterns through which they interpreted life. Hermetic wisdom is an ancient spiritual philosophy traced back to Hermes Trismegistus, a mysterious figure remembered as a keeper of hidden knowledge about the mind, the universe, and the laws that connect the inner world with the outer world. At its core, Hermetic teaching says that life is not random chaos. It is shaped by principles, by mind, vibration, correspondence, rhythm, and the unseen forces moving beneath ordinary experience. Not prisons made of stone, not chains placed around the body, but mental prisons built from repeated thoughts, emotional reactions, inherited fears, and unconscious judgments. Most human beings believe reality is happening to them. But this ancient book reveals something far more disturbing. Reality is being filtered through them. Every event you experience passes first through consciousness. Every word, every delay, every rejection, every opportunity, every fear, every desire must pass through the inner atmosphere you carry. And that atmosphere is your vibration. Your vibration is not simply your mood. It is the emotional state you keep returning to. It is the judgment you repeat without noticing. It is the story your mind whispers when no one else can hear it. Reality does not obey your loudest desire. It obeys your most repeated state. If your inner world is scattered, reality appears scattered. If your inner world is ruled by fear, reality begins to look threatening. If your attention is fragmented, your power becomes fragmented. But when the mind becomes ordered, when emotion becomes directed, when attention becomes protected, and when reaction becomes conscious, something begins to shift. The outer world starts responding to a different signal. Before this first chapter begins, observe the thoughts you repeat in silence. Not the dramatic thoughts, the automatic ones. Because according to the first Hermetic law, those thoughts may already be building the reality you are about to live inside. Chapter 1. The all is mind. What if the world you experience is not reality itself, but reality translated through consciousness? This question sits at the center of one of the most powerful Hermetic teachings ever preserved. The all is mind. At first, the phrase sounds impossible, but the ancient teachers did not mean that the physical world was fake. They did not mean that cities, storms, bodies, money, relationships, and challenges were only illusions. They meant something more subtle. They meant that no human being experiences reality without interpretation. Every event must first pass through the mind. Before life becomes your experience, it passes through memory, belief, fear, expectation, identity, and judgment. The outer world may present an event, but the inner world gives that event meaning. And meaning changes everything. Two people can face the same rejection. One sees proof that they are not enough. Another sees redirection towards something better. Two people can stand beneath the same pressure. One feels punished by life. Another feels trained by life. Two people can lose the same opportunity. One collapses into despair. Another becomes sharper, quieter, more prepared. The event may be similar, but the reality experienced is not the same. Because consciousness is not a passive window, it is a living filter. This is why the Hermetic initiates treated the mind as sacred ground. Before deeper teachings were revealed, students were trained in silence, observation, restraint, and mental discipline. They had to learn how to watch thought without becoming its servant. Because an undisciplined mind does not merely suffer, it builds. Modern people build homes with wood, concrete, steel, and glass. But inwardly, they build their lives with repeated thoughts. Every repeated thought is a brick. Every repeated judgment is a beam. Every repeated fear is a wall. Over time, the mind becomes the house a person lives inside. A man who repeats, "Nothing ever works for me," does not simply think a negative thought. He begins constructing a mental structure where opportunity feels suspicious, risk feels dangerous, and hope feels foolish. A woman who repeats, "I am always left behind," does not merely describe sadness. She begins filtering life through that sentence. A delayed message becomes abandonment. Someone else's success becomes proof of her failure. A quiet moment becomes evidence that she has been forgotten. The world may not be rejecting her, but her mental architecture translates life as rejection. This is the hidden prison. Not iron bars, not locked doors, not chains around the wrists. A prison made of interpretation. Imagine a man living in Chicago, waking before sunrise on a cold Monday morning. His phone lights up beside his bed. There is an email from his manager. Only one sentence appears on the screen. "We need to talk today." That is all. No accusation, no explanation, no threat, just a sentence. But before he even stands up, his mind begins constructing reality. He thinks, "I did something wrong. Then, maybe I'm getting fired. Then, I knew this would happen. Then I am never safe. His chest tightens, his breathing changes, his shoulders rise. By the time he arrives at work, he is no longer responding to an email. He is responding to the world his mind built from the email. He walks into the meeting defensive. He speaks too quickly. He misreads neutral questions as attacks. His nervous system has already decided the meaning before reality is spoken. Now imagine another person receiving the same message. We need to talk today. He pauses. He breathes. He does not allow the first interpretation to become the final truth. He tells himself, I do not know what this means yet. I will meet it clearly. He prepares. He enters the meeting steady. His mind remains open enough to hear what is actually being said. Same email, different consciousness, different reality. This is the first great Hermetic insight. The mind does not merely observe life. It participates in the life being experienced. The ancient Stoics understood this same truth in another language. They taught that human beings are not disturbed by events alone, but by the judgments they place upon events. A delay is not automatically failure. A criticism is not automatically humiliation. A closed door is not automatically rejection. The judgment gives the event emotional force, and once judgment is repeated, it becomes identity. This is why mental discipline was never considered a small thing by ancient schools of wisdom. Not because pain is imaginary, not because hardship should be denied, but because pain becomes heavier when the mind adds unconscious meaning to it. There is a difference between facing failure and becoming a person who believes failure is their nature. There is a difference between feeling fear and letting fear become your prophecy. There is a difference between meeting uncertainty and turning uncertainty into proof that life cannot be trusted. Most people never notice when this happens. They think they are seeing reality clearly, but often they are seeing reality through years of emotional repetition. Thought becomes perception. Perception becomes emotion. Emotion becomes behavior. Behavior becomes outcome, and outcome returns as proof of the original thought. The circle closes. Then the person says, "This is just my life." But Hermetic wisdom whispers something different. This is not just your life. This is the structure your consciousness has been repeating. And what has been repeated can be observed. What can be observed can be interrupted. What can be interrupted can be rebuilt. This is where raising your vibration truly begins. Not by pretending to feel positive, not by forcing yourself to deny pain, but by purifying the perception through which life is being experienced. Because reality does not obey the thought you say once. It obeys the mental structure you keep living inside. So begin with one simple practice. Observe your repeated thoughts. Not the dramatic thoughts that appear once and disappear. Not the thoughts you say out loud to impress other people. Observe the quiet sentences your mind returns to when no one is listening. I'm behind. I'm not ready. Money always leaves. I have to struggle to be worthy. Something bad is about to happen. I cannot trust life. Do not judge them yet. Just see them. Because the moment you see a thought as a thought, it stops pretending to be reality. That is where freedom begins. The first Hermetic law is not asking you to escape the world. It is asking you to recognize the mind through which the world is being experienced. For if the all is mind, then your inner world is not a private place without consequence. It is the first chamber of creation. And before your vibration can rise, the architecture within you must be seen. Chapter 2, Judgment Creates Experience. There is an ancient Stoic teaching that becomes more powerful the longer you examine it. Human beings are not disturbed only by events, but by the judgments they place upon those events. At first, this may feel difficult to accept, because when life hurts, the pain seems to come directly from what happened. The rejection, the delay, the criticism, the lost money, the unanswered message, the opportunity that disappeared. All of it feels like the source of suffering, but the Stoics saw a hidden layer beneath the event itself. Something happens, and then the mind immediately gives it meaning. That meaning becomes the emotional world you are forced to live inside. A delayed response becomes, "They do not care about me." A difficult conversation becomes, "I am being attacked." A failed attempt becomes, "I am not meant for this." A financial setback becomes, "I will never be safe." The event may last only a moment, but the judgment can echo for years if it is repeated often enough. This is why judgment is not small. Judgment is creative. It creates the emotional atmosphere around an event. It decides whether pressure becomes punishment or training, whether criticism becomes humiliation or instruction, whether silence becomes abandonment or space, whether loss becomes identity or initiation. The Hermetic teachers would have understood this completely. They taught that the mind is not merely a witness to reality, but the instrument through which reality becomes experience. The Stoics approached the same truth with discipline. They asked the student to separate two things most people confuse: what happened and what the mind decided it meant. Imagine a woman in Los Angeles waiting to hear back after a job interview. She checks her phone in the morning, then again at lunch, then again in the afternoon. No message arrives. The event itself is simple. There is no response yet. But her mind does not leave it there. It begins to build. They did not choose me, she thinks. Then, I must have said something wrong. Then I am not impressive enough. Then, this always happens to me. By evening, she is no longer living inside the silence of an email inbox. She is living inside a judgment that has turned silence into rejection. Her body responds as if the rejection has already happened. Her energy drops. Her breathing becomes shallow. She stops applying for other opportunities because her mind has already turned uncertainty into a verdict. Nothing outside has been confirmed, but inside, a reality has already been created. Now imagine another woman in the same city, facing the same silence after the same kind of interview. She notices the discomfort, but she does not let uncertainty become identity. She says, "I do not know yet." Then she updates her resume, sends another application, takes a walk, and allows silence to remain silence, instead of turning it into proof of unworthiness. The difference between them is not the event. The difference is judgment. One judgment collapses energy, narrows attention, and weakens action. The other preserves clarity long enough for the future to remain open. This is the hidden power of interpretation. Most people believe they are reacting to reality, but often they are reacting to the meaning they assign too quickly. A supervisor gives direct feedback, and one mind hears disrespect while another hears information. Money becomes tight, and one mind hears doom while another hears a call for discipline. A relationship ends, and one mind hears, "I am unlovable," while another hears, "Something in me must return to wholeness." This does not mean pain disappears. Stoicism was never the denial of pain, and Hermetic wisdom was never the denial of hardship. Both traditions understood that life brings difficulty, loss, pressure, and uncertainty. But they also understood that suffering becomes heavier when judgment becomes unconscious. Pain is what happened. Suffering often comes from the meaning repeated afterward. This is where many people lose sovereignty. They do not simply say, "This failed." They say, "I am a failure." They do not simply say, "This person left." They say, "I am the kind of person people leave." They do not simply say, "Money is tight right now." They say, "I will never be financially safe." In that moment, the mind takes one event and turns it into a law. Then life begins to organize around that law. A person who believes they are always rejected enters rooms defensively, speaks with guarded energy, misreads neutral expressions, and avoids being fully seen. Eventually, the world seems to confirm what the judgment already predicted. This is not because the universe is punishing them. It is because unconscious judgment became vibration. Vibration shaped perception. Perception shaped behavior. Behavior shaped results. The work, then, is not to pretend every event is pleasant. The work is to stop allowing the first frightened interpretation to become the final truth. The ancient Stoic trained himself to pause between event and judgment. The Hermetic student trained herself to observe the inner movement before it hardened into identity. Both paths lead to the same doorway, awareness. So when something unsettles you today, do not ask only, "Why did this happen?" Ask first, "What meaning did I just assign to this?" Then ask, "Is this meaning freeing my consciousness or imprisoning it?" A delay may not be rejection. A closed door may not be punishment. A difficult season may not be proof that you are failing. It may be space, redirection, training, or the empty ground before a new structure appears. But you will not see that possibility if the mind has already sentenced the event before wisdom can speak. This is the sacred discipline of judgment, not forcing positivity, not lying to yourself, and not calling pain beautiful before you are ready, but refusing to let unconscious interpretation become your master. The next time life presents an event, pause. Separate what happened from what your mind immediately claimed it meant. Breathe once. Let the event stand without the old story wrapped around it, and choose the meaning that gives your consciousness back its power. Because judgment creates experience, and experience, repeated long enough, becomes the vibration through which reality answers you. Chapter 3. Plato's Cave and the Shadows in the Mind. More than 2,000 years ago, Plato told a story that still describes the hidden condition of human consciousness. He spoke of prisoners chained inside a dark cave since birth. All they could see were shadows moving across a wall, cast by objects passing behind them. Because they had never seen anything else, they believed the shadows were reality. Then one prisoner was freed. At first, the light outside the cave hurt his eyes. The real world felt strange, threatening, almost impossible to trust. But slowly, his vision adjusted. He saw that what he once called reality had only been a projection. When he returned to tell the others, they rejected him, not because he lied, but because familiar illusion often feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. The Hermetic teachers would have recognized something profound in this story. The cave is not only a place in an ancient myth, the cave is a condition of the mind. Most people do not see life only as it is. They see life through shadows formed by memory, fear, inherited beliefs, emotional wounds, cultural programming, and repeated assumptions. These shadows do not always feel like falsehood. Often they feel like identity. A person does not say, "I am carrying an old fear." They say, "This is just who I am." A person does not say, "I learned this belief from pain." They say, "This is how life works." That is the cave. One of the most dangerous things about a shadow story is that it feels familiar enough to be trusted. If someone grew up hearing that money is hard to keep, they may become an adult who earns more than their parents ever did, yet still feels unsafe every time money enters their life. If someone was abandoned once, they may start reading distance into every quiet moment, every delayed message, every change in tone. If someone was judged for being visible, they may avoid opportunities not because they lack ability, but because being seen still feels dangerous. In each case, the person believes they are reacting to the present. But often, they are reacting to a shadow from the past projected onto the present. Consider a man in Phoenix, now in his early 30s. He works steadily, earns more than he did 5 years ago, and has more stability than he once imagined. Yet, every bill makes his body tighten. Every unexpected expense feels like danger. Even when his bank account grows, peace does not arrive with it. He tells himself he is simply being realistic and responsible. But beneath that language lives an old sentence: money is hard to keep. That sentence did not begin with him. He heard it at kitchen tables, during arguments, in worried conversations between adults who were doing the best they could with what they knew. As a child, he absorbed the atmosphere before he understood the economics. Years later, the income changed, but the perception did not. The numbers improved, but the cave remained. This is why ancient wisdom begins with self-observation. Not because every hardship is imagined, and not because external conditions do not matter. They do. But the meaning you project onto those conditions determines what you see, what you ignore, what you repeat, and what you unconsciously recreate. A shadow story may sound like people always leave. It may sound like money never stays. It may sound like good things happen for others, not for me. It may sound like I have to struggle before I am allowed to receive. These sentences may feel private, but they are not harmless. They become lenses, and through those lenses, reality is translated. The cave survives by making freedom feel suspicious. If someone loves you sincerely, the shadow searches for rejection. If an opportunity opens, the shadow searches for danger. If peace arrives, the shadow wonders when it will be taken away. This is how old darkness protects itself. It teaches the mind to distrust the light. So today, begin with one practice. Choose one story your mind repeats when no one is listening. Do not choose the one that sounds noble or intelligent. Choose the one that quietly limits you. Write it clearly. People always leave. Money never stays. I am not the kind of person who succeeds. If I am seen, I will be judged. I have to struggle to be worthy. Then ask, is this truth, or is this a shadow I have stared at for too long? Do not rush the answer. Let the question work inside you. Awareness may not break the cave in one moment, but it creates the first crack in the wall. And through that crack, light begins to enter. Because before your vibration can rise, the shadow shaping your perception must be seen. A mind staring at old darkness cannot fully hold a higher frequency. But once the shadow is recognized as shadow, consciousness begins returning to power. And when consciousness returns to power, the world no longer looks the same. Chapter 4. The Principle of Vibration. Once the shadows of perception are seen, the next question becomes unavoidable. What state of consciousness are you vibrating from now? Ancient Hermetic wisdom teaches that nothing rests. Everything moves, everything vibrates. The stone appears still, the body appears solid, the room appears silent, yet beneath appearance movement continues. Breath moves, thought moves, emotion moves, attention moves. Even silence carries a condition. At first, this principle may sound mystical, but it becomes practical the moment you study human experience. A room after an argument feels different from a room filled with laughter. A calm leader changes the atmosphere around them without forcing control. A fearful person enters a conversation and hears danger in neutral words, while a grounded person hears the same words as information. The Hermetic teachers called this vibration, not merely sound, not vague energy. Vibration is the condition of consciousness moving through thought, emotion, attention, speech, posture, and action. It is the inner atmosphere you carry before the world has a chance to respond to you. Fear has a vibration. It narrows perception, tightens the body, and searches for threats before they appear. Shame has a vibration. It causes a person to shrink before anyone rejects them. Gratitude has a vibration. It opens awareness to what is already supporting life. Discipline has a vibration. It steadies the mind when emotion tries to scatter it. This is why ancient initiates were trained to watch the movement of emotion before they were trusted with deeper laws. They understood that a disturbed inner state could not perceive higher truth clearly. A mind ruled by fear sees distortion everywhere, just as stormy water cannot reflect the moon without breaking its image. Consider a man entering a meeting already expecting criticism. Before anyone speaks, his body has prepared for conflict. His shoulders tighten, his voice becomes defensive, and every question sounds like an attack. Another man enters the same room with steady attention. He hears the same questions, but receives them as data. He does not turn inquiry into danger, so the room does not become a battlefield. Same room, different vibration, different reality experienced. This does not mean your emotions magically control every event. Hermetic wisdom is deeper and more disciplined than that. It means your emotional state influences what you notice, how you interpret it, how your body responds, what choices become available, and what actions you are able to take. Over time, those choices shape outcomes. This is why vibration is not what you claim to want. It is the state you keep rehearsing. A person may say they desire peace but rehearse urgency all day. They may say they desire abundance but rehearse fear around every bill. They may say they desire love but rehearse suspicion in every quiet moment. The declared desire is one signal. The repeated state is another. Reality responds more deeply to the signal that is lived, not the one that is announced. The ancient teachers did not ask students to pretend to be happy. Raising vibration was never the art of forcing a smile over pain. It was the discipline of becoming conscious of the state you are carrying, then refusing to let lower states govern perception unconsciously. Fear may appear, but it does not have to become your master. Anger may rise, but it does not have to become your voice. Shame may visit, but it does not have to become your identity. You are not asked to deny emotion. You are asked to stop being ruled by emotion before awareness arrives. So today, practice this before entering any important conversation, decision, meeting, or creative work. Pause and ask, what emotional atmosphere am I bringing into this? If fear is present, breathe until the body softens. If resentment is present, name it before it speaks through you. If urgency is present, slow down enough to return to clarity. Do not judge the state. Observe it, because observation is the beginning of mastery. Vibration is not only what you feel, it is what your state causes you to see, say, choose, and repeat. And the signal you repeat long enough becomes the vibration reality begins to obey. Chapter 5. Attention is energy. If vibration is the atmosphere of consciousness, then attention is the force that feeds it. Ancient Hermetic teachers understood attention as something far more powerful than ordinary focus. To them, attention was not passive awareness. It was active energy, the sacred flame through which the mind strengthened whatever it repeatedly touched. If that flame was scattered by every wind, it could not illuminate hidden truth. But when it was guarded, concentrated, and directed, consciousness became clear enough to perceive the deeper laws beneath experience. A fear that passes through the mind may disappear like a cloud, but a fear fed with attention becomes a climate. A desire visited with calm focus becomes clearer. A resentment rehearsed day after day becomes heavier. A possibility held steadily in awareness begins to shape posture, language, choices, and behavior. This is why attention matters. It is the channel through which vibration is strengthened. Where attention goes, energy gathers. Where energy gathers, perception sharpens. Where perception sharpens, action changes. And where action changes consistently, outcomes begin to change as well. Modern life makes this ancient discipline difficult because the world now competes for human attention every second of the day. The phone beside the bed, the notification on the screen, the headline written to provoke fear, the argument online, the endless comparison hidden inside social media, all of it pulls consciousness outward before the person has chosen an inner direction. A person may wake up with a quiet mind, but within minutes they can absorb panic, comparison, irritation, and urgency from people they have never met. They believe they are only checking updates, yet something deeper is happening. Their attention is being captured. And wherever attention is captured, energy is transferred. This is the hidden economy of the modern world. Attention is currency, and every platform, advertisement, headline, and emotional controversy understands this principle. It does not only want your time, it wants your state, the emotional direction from which your next decisions will be made. Ancient initiates entered silence before receiving deeper teachings because they understood that a scattered mind could not perceive clearly. The modern person may not live in a stone temple or a desert school, but the discipline remains the same. Before you can raise your vibration, you must reclaim the attention that has been divided across too many signals. Imagine a man in New York waking at 6:30 in the morning. Before his feet touch the floor, he reaches for his phone. He reads a crisis headline, sees someone else's success, checks messages, watches a short video, then scrolls through another opinion that irritates him. 10 minutes become 30. By the time he stands up, his body is tense, his mind is comparing, and his energy has already been shaped by the outer world. He thinks he has begun his day, but in truth, the day has begun him. Now imagine another person in the same city, waking to the same pressures, responsibilities, and uncertainty. Before reaching for the world, she returns to herself. She breathes, writes one clear intention, drinks water, and allows her mind to become steady before absorbing anything external. She does not do this because life is easy. She does it because life is demanding, and demanding days require protected attention. The difference between these two people is not luck. It is energetic authority. One allows the world to choose the first frequency. The other chooses before the world enters. This does not mean avoiding life or refusing information. It means refusing to surrender consciousness unconsciously. There is a difference between being informed and being invaded. There is a difference between using technology and being used by stimulation. There is a difference between choosing where your mind goes and letting the loudest force pull it in every direction. Attention shapes vibration because attention decides what emotional states are rehearsed. If you give your attention to fear every morning, fear becomes easier to return to. If you give attention to resentment every night, resentment becomes familiar. But if you give attention to discipline, gratitude, clarity, and inner order, those states become easier for the nervous system to recognize as home. So begin with one practical discipline. Protect the first 30 minutes of your morning. No phone, no outrage, no comparison, no emotional noise from people who have not earned access to your consciousness. Let the first moments of the day belong to your own mind before the world attempts to rent space inside it. Sit quietly, breathe slowly. Ask yourself, what state do I choose to strengthen today? Then carry that question into your first action, your first words, and your first decision, because attention is not empty awareness. Attention is energy in motion, and whatever receives your attention long enough begins to shape the vibration you live from. Chapter 6. The Energy Leak. Ancient initiates believed that most human beings were not weak because they lacked power. They were weak because their power was constantly leaking, not through the body first, but through the mind. A person can sleep 8 hours and still wake exhausted if the inner world has never become quiet. A person can sit in an office all day and feel more drained than someone who worked with their hands, because physical labor is not the only thing that consumes energy. Worry consumes energy. Resentment consumes energy. Comparison consumes energy. Unspoken anger, imaginary arguments, fear of the future, and the constant attempt to control what cannot be controlled all drain the field of consciousness. This is the energy leak. To the Hermetic student, attention was not something casual. It was a living force. If that force was divided, the person became divided. If it was scattered, the person became scattered. If it was pulled into too many emotional directions, inner authority weakened. The ancient teachers understood this long before modern life filled the mind with endless stimulation. They knew that consciousness becomes powerful only when it stops leaking in every direction at once. Imagine carrying water in a cracked vessel. No matter how pure the water is, no matter how much is poured into it, the vessel never remains full because it cannot hold what it receives. Many people live this way internally. They read, plan, pray, affirm, work hard, and try to improve their lives, but their energy keeps escaping through the same invisible cracks. One crack is resentment. A person may smile through the day, but inside they keep replaying what someone said, what someone did, what someone failed to give them. The event ended hours ago, sometimes years ago, yet attention continues feeding it. Resentment becomes a private room where energy goes to disappear. Another crack is overthinking. The mind rehearses conversations that have not happened, outcomes that may never arrive, and dangers that exist only as possibility. It calls this preparation, but often it is only fear wearing the mask of intelligence. Instead of creating clarity, overthinking multiplies inner noise until the nervous system no longer knows the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. Another crack is comparison. A person looks at someone else's success and immediately turns it into evidence against their own life. Their attention leaves their path and enters a measurement they did not consciously choose. From the outside, nothing dramatic has happened, but inwardly, energy has dropped, gratitude has vanished, and the mind has moved from creation into self-attack. This is how people become energetically weak without understanding why. Consider a man in Atlanta who ends every workday feeling empty. He tells himself the job is destroying him, and perhaps part of that is true. But when he begins observing carefully, he notices something deeper. All day his mind is fighting silent battles. He imagines what his boss thinks of him. He replays a conversation with a coworker. He checks his progress against people online. He worries about bills before they arrive. He plans responses to criticism that has not been spoken. By 5 o'clock, his body has not run a marathon, but his consciousness has. The exhaustion is real, but the source is not only the workload, it is the leakage. Hermetic wisdom does not ask you to withdraw from life. It asks you to stop giving your life force to every passing disturbance. The world will always offer reasons to leak energy. Someone will misunderstand you. A plan will change. A bill will arrive. A person will succeed faster than you. A headline will provoke fear. A memory will ask for attention. The question is not whether these things appear. The question is whether your consciousness must follow every one of them. A sovereign mind does not react to every hook. It notices the hook. This is where energy begins to return, not through force, but through refusal. Refusal to rehearse the insult again. Refusal to fight imaginary conversations. Refusal to feed the comparison. Refusal to keep touching the wound just to confirm that it still hurts. This refusal is not denial, it is conservation. The Stoics practiced this through inner discipline. They trained themselves to separate what belonged to them from what did not. The Hermetic initiates practiced it through attention, silence, and emotional observation. Different language, same law. What you cannot govern outwardly must not be allowed to govern you inwardly. So begin with one practice today. Watch where your energy leaks. Notice the conversation that weakens you after it ends. Notice the thought you keep returning to even though it gives you no solution. Notice the comparison that makes your own life feel smaller. Notice the fear that asks for your attention again and again without offering wisdom in return. Then ask, is this worthy of my life force? If the answer is no, breathe, release your attention, and return to what is actually yours to govern. Your next action, your next word, your next decision, your next state. Power returns when attention stops bleeding into everything that calls for it. And once the leaks begin to close, your vibration no longer has to fight for strength. It begins to gather naturally, like water finally held in a vessel strong enough to contain it. Chapter 7. Mental Transmutation. Once the leaks in consciousness begin to close, a deeper power becomes possible. The energy that once escaped through fear, resentment, and overthinking can now be directed. This is where ancient Hermetic wisdom introduces one of its most important teachings, mental transmutation. To transmute means to change the form of something without denying its existence. In the old language of alchemy, lead was transformed into gold, but to the deeper initiate, this was never only about metal. It was a symbol for the human mind. Lead represented the heavy states of consciousness: fear, anger, shame, envy, grief, and confusion. Gold represented disciplined awareness, clarity, courage, compassion, and inner command. The goal was not to destroy emotion. The goal was to refine it. Most people are ruled by emotion because they identify with it too quickly. Fear appears and they say, I am afraid. Anger rises and they say, I am angry. Shame visits and they say, I am not enough. In each case, a temporary state becomes identity, and once emotion becomes identity, the person loses the ability to direct it. The Hermetic student learned a different way. Fear was not an enemy. It was energy asking to become awareness. Anger was not automatically destruction. It was force asking to become disciplined action. Pain was not proof of weakness. It was raw material asking to become wisdom. This is mental transmutation. A modern athlete understands this better than most. Before a championship game, the body may tremble. The heart beats faster, the stomach tightens, and the mind becomes alert. One person calls this panic and collapses beneath it. Another calls it energy and uses it to sharpen focus. The physical sensation may be similar, but consciousness gives it direction. Pressure can break a person who has no inner command, but pressure can refine a person who knows how to guide it. The same principle appears in ordinary life. Someone receives criticism and immediately feels heat in the body. The old pattern turns that heat into defensiveness, harsh words, and regret. But the disciplined mind pauses long enough to ask, what is this energy trying to become? Perhaps it becomes clearer communication. Perhaps it becomes better preparation. Perhaps it becomes the decision to improve without collapsing into shame. Nothing was suppressed. The energy was redirected. This distinction matters. Suppression buries emotion beneath the surface, where it continues to shape behavior unconsciously. Transmutation brings emotion into awareness, names it honestly, and then gives it a higher purpose. The person does not pretend anger is absent. They simply refuse to let anger choose their words before wisdom arrives. This is why ancient schools trained students in silence, breath, and observation. They were not trying to make people emotionless. They were trying to make them sovereign. A person who cannot direct inner energy becomes predictable, controlled by every insult, delay, rejection, and fear. But a person who can transmute emotion becomes difficult to defeat, because even difficulty becomes fuel. So today, practice this when a strong emotion appears. Do not explode and do not bury it. Pause, breathe, name the energy without becoming it. Say quietly, fear is present, or anger is present. Then ask, what is the higher form of this energy? Can fear become preparation? Can anger become disciplined action? Can pain become wisdom? Can desire become focused creation? This is not instant magic, it is training. Each time awareness interrupts reaction, the old pattern weakens. Each time emotion is redirected instead of obeyed, inner authority grows. Mental transmutation is the art of turning the heavy material of human experience into power. And once you learn to transform what once controlled you, your vibration no longer depends on perfect circumstances. It begins to rise from mastery. Chapter 8, the pause between stimulus and response. Mental transmutation begins in one small space most people never learn to protect. The pause between what happens and how you respond. Ancient Stoic teachers understood this space with extraordinary clarity. They knew that a human being does not lose power only when life becomes difficult. A person loses power when difficulty immediately takes command of their reaction. An insult appears, and the mouth speaks before wisdom arrives. A message is misunderstood, and the fingers begin typing before awareness has entered the body. A setback occurs, and the mind instantly creates a future of disaster. This is how consciousness becomes enslaved by stimulus. The pause is the doorway out. To the Stoic, inner sovereignty did not mean controlling every event. It meant governing the part of life that still belonged to you when events could not be controlled. Your interpretation, your breath, your speech, your next action, and the meaning you choose to strengthen. The Hermetic student would have called this the moment when energy can still be directed before it hardens into fate. Emotion rises, but has not yet become behavior. Heat appears in the body, but has not yet become a sentence spoken in anger. Fear appears in the mind, but has not yet become avoidance. In this brief space, the future is still flexible. Consider a man in Denver receiving a hostile text late at night. The message feels disrespectful, unfair, and sharp enough to wake the old pattern in him. His chest tightens, his jaw locks, and his thumb moves toward the keyboard. In the past, he would have answered instantly. One sentence would become 5, 5 would become 20. By morning, the damage would be larger than the original message. But this time, something interrupts the pattern. He places the phone face down. He breathes once, not because he has no emotion, and not because the message did not affect him. He pauses because he knows that the first response is often not the wisest response. It is usually the oldest response, the one built from pride, fear, defense, and habit. By morning, the same situation looks different. He still may need to respond. He still may need to set a boundary. But now the response comes from clarity instead of reflex. The pause did not make him passive. It made him sovereign. This is the power most people underestimate. One breath can save a relationship. One breath can prevent a financial decision made from panic. One breath can stop a meeting from becoming a battlefield. One breath can interrupt years of conditioning before it becomes another repeated outcome. Modern American life constantly trains the opposite. Everything demands immediacy. Reply now, react now, decide now, post now, defend yourself now. The nervous system becomes addicted to instant reaction. And because reaction feels fast, people mistake it for strength. But speed without awareness is not power. It is often only conditioning moving quickly. True power can wait long enough to choose. This does not mean silence forever. It does not mean letting people cross your boundaries. It does not mean pretending you are unaffected. The pause is not avoidance. It is the sacred moment where emotion is allowed to be felt without being allowed to rule. When anger rises, pause before it becomes your voice. When fear appears, pause before it becomes your decision. When shame is triggered, pause before it becomes your identity. The emotion may still be present, but awareness has entered the room, and once awareness enters, the old pattern is no longer alone. The practice is simple but not easy. Before any emotional response, take one breath. If the body is still burning, take 3. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw soften. Feel your feet. Feel the weight of the body. And ask, what response would come from the person I am becoming, not the person I have been? This question changes the entire field. Because the old self reacts to protect its wounds, the new self responds to protect its direction. The next time life strikes a nerve, do not worship the first impulse. Do not assume urgency is truth. Let the event arrive, let the emotion rise, and then create a space wide enough for wisdom to enter. In that space, transmutation becomes possible. In that space, judgment can be examined. In that space, vibration can be chosen instead of inherited. And the person who can pause before reacting begins to move through reality differently from everyone who is still controlled by the first thing they feel. Chapter 9. Turning pressure into power. Once you learn to pause before reacting, pressure begins to reveal a different purpose. Most people believe pressure exists only to break them. The deadline, the rejection, the financial strain, the difficult conversation, the season of uncertainty, all of it appears as an enemy standing in the way of peace. But ancient wisdom saw pressure differently. To the Hermetic initiate, pressure was not always punishment. Sometimes it was the fire that revealed what was still unrefined within the self. In alchemy, fire was necessary. Without heat, the raw material could not be changed. Without friction, the hidden impurity could not rise to the surface. The same is true in consciousness. Pressure exposes the places where fear still governs, where discipline is still weak, where identity still depends on comfort, and where old patterns still wait beneath the surface. The Stoics understood this with unusual strength. They did not ask life to become easy before they practiced wisdom. They believed win was proven precisely when life became difficult. A calm mind during comfort is pleasant, but a calm mind under pressure is power. This is why the same situation can destroy one person and refine another. One person faces rejection and decides they are not worthy. Another faces rejection and becomes more precise, more honest, more prepared. One person loses money and collapses into panic. Another studies the pattern, strengthens discipline, and learns how to build with more awareness. One person is criticized and becomes bitter. Another listens for the useful part, releases the rest, and grows stronger. The pressure is not identical in meaning. Consciousness gives it direction. Consider a small business owner in Texas who loses his largest client in a single phone call. At first, the shock feels like disaster. That client represented almost half his monthly revenue. His mind immediately moves toward fear, payroll, rent, reputation, failure. For a few hours, the old pattern tries to take command. He wants to blame the client, blame the market, blame himself, or imagine the entire business collapsing. But after the first wave passes, he does something different. He pauses long enough to ask a better question. What is this exposing? Slowly, the answer becomes clear. His business was too dependent on one source. His systems were too fragile. His sales process was inconsistent because comfort had made him careless. The loss hurt, but it also revealed a weakness that success had been hiding. That realization changes the pressure. It is no longer only a threat. It becomes information. He rebuilds his outreach, diversifies his client base, improves his contracts, and becomes more disciplined than he was before. The event did not feel good. It was not pleasant, and he did not need to pretend it was. But because he refused to turn pressure into identity, he was able to turn it into power. This is the high-performance meaning of spiritual mastery. It is not floating above difficulty. It is learning how to use difficulty without being consumed by it. Fear can sharpen preparation. Rejection can strengthen identity. Failure can expose weak structures. Loss can reveal what was unstable. Pressure can show you the exact place where your vibration still depends on perfect conditions. A person who only feels powerful when everything is easy has not yet built true power. They have built comfort. True power begins when the inner state remains available, even when the outer world becomes demanding. This does not mean every painful event is good. It does not mean you should welcome suffering or romanticize hardship. Ancient wisdom was never that shallow. Pain is real, loss is real. Uncertainty can shake the body and humble the mind. But even then, a deeper question remains available. What is this training in me? That question does not erase pain, but it prevents pain from becoming useless. It turns consciousness from helpless reaction toward intelligent participation. Instead of asking only, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what strength, discipline, honesty, courage, or clarity is being demanded from me now? This shift changes the field of energy. The body may still feel pressure, but the mind is no longer only collapsing beneath it. Awareness begins searching for the higher use of the moment. So practice this with one challenge in your life right now. Choose something real, not theoretical. A financial pressure, a career uncertainty, a relationship difficulty, a creative block, a decision you have been avoiding. Write down the situation clearly, then ask, what is this exposing? Ask, what quality is this forcing me to develop? Ask, what version of me would know how to meet this without losing inner command? Do not rush the answer. Let the pressure become a teacher without letting it become your identity. Because pressure itself does not decide who you become. Your response to pressure does. And when you learn to turn pressure into preparation, pain into wisdom, and uncertainty into disciplined action, your vibration no longer collapses every time life becomes difficult. It begins to rise through the very fire that once frightened you. Chapter 10. As above, so below. Ancient Hermetic wisdom preserved a phrase that has traveled through centuries of philosophy, mysticism, and spiritual discipline. As above, so below, as within, so without. At first, the phrase sounds poetic, almost symbolic. But to the Hermetic student, it described a living principle of correspondence. The inner world and the outer world are not separate in the way most people imagine. What is repeated within consciousness begins to reveal itself through perception, behavior, decisions, relationships, and eventually circumstance. This does not mean every event in life is created by thought alone. That would be too shallow, and ancient wisdom was never that simple. The world is complex. Other people have choices. Markets shift, bodies change, unexpected events arrive. But within all of that complexity, one truth remains. Your inner order deeply influences how you meet the outer world. A fearful inner state often creates hesitant action. Hesitant action creates missed opportunities. Missed opportunities reinforce fear. A resentful inner state often creates guarded speech, cold reactions, and conflict that seems to appear everywhere. A scattered inner state often produces scattered priorities, unfinished work, and a life that feels divided in too many directions. This is correspondence in motion. The outer pattern may look like bad luck, but often it is an inner pattern wearing external clothing. This is why the Hermetic teachers placed so much emphasis on inner order. They understood that trying to control outer life while ignoring inner chaos is like trying to calm the surface of the ocean while refusing to notice the storm above it. The waves are not the origin, they are the expression. Modern life teaches the opposite. It tells people to fix the outside first, change the job, change the partner, change the city, change the schedule, change the strategy. Sometimes those changes are necessary. But if the same inner pattern remains untouched, the new environment eventually begins to carry the old vibration. A person leaves one relationship and finds the same conflict in another. A person earns more money and still feels unsafe, rushed, and behind. A person gets a better job and carries the same fear of being exposed. A person moves across the country and discovers that the old anxiety came with them, packed quietly inside the mind. The scenery changed, but the structure remained. Consider a woman in Seattle trying to repair her financial life. She reads books, downloads budgeting apps, opens new accounts, and creates spreadsheets with careful intention. For a few weeks, everything appears different. The numbers are organized, the plan looks clean, and she feels hopeful. But beneath the new system, an old inner condition remains untouched. Every bill still feels like an attack. Every purchase creates guilt. Every unexpected expense awakens panic. When money enters, she does not feel supported. She feels the pressure to protect it before it disappears. Over time, the outer system begins to reflect the inner state. She avoids checking the accounts because the fear feels too heavy. Then she makes rushed decisions because she avoided the numbers. Then the plan becomes confusing. Soon, the same financial anxiety returns, even though the tools were better than before. The problem was not only the spreadsheet. The problem was the state of consciousness using the spreadsheet. As within, so without. Inner disorder eventually finds a way to express itself outwardly, not through magic, but through repeated behavior. Inner scarcity becomes tense decisions. Inner shame becomes avoidance. Inner fear becomes over-control. Inner confusion becomes inconsistent action. This is why inner order precedes lasting success. The Stoics understood a similar truth from another angle. They taught that peace begins when a person separates what is within their control from what is not. You may not control every outcome, every market, every opinion, every delay, or every decision another person makes. But you can govern your attention, your preparation, your speech, your response, your discipline, and the meaning you choose to strengthen. That is where correspondence begins to change. When the inner world becomes more ordered, the outer world may not transform instantly, but your relationship to it changes immediately. You see more clearly, you act more steadily, you stop feeding the patterns that once recreated the same result. You no longer try to force the reflection while ignoring the face in the mirror. So begin with one honest practice. Look at one repeated pattern in your life. Choose something that keeps returning in different forms. The same money stress, the same relationship tension, the same career ceiling, the same avoidance, the same emotional reaction. Then ask, where does this pattern already exist inside me? Do not ask this with blame. Ask it with courage. Blame closes the mind, but observation opens the gate. You are not looking for a reason to accuse yourself. You are looking for the inner structure that is asking to be brought into order, because the outer world is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is a mirror, showing you the pattern consciousness has repeated long enough to become visible. And when the inner pattern changes, the reflection cannot remain exactly the same. Chapter 11, Reality as a Mirror of Untransformed Patterns. When the ancient teachers said that the outer world reflects the inner world, they were not speaking only about isolated thoughts. They were speaking about patterns. A thought may pass through the mind and disappear. An emotion may rise and fall in a single afternoon. But a pattern is different. A pattern is a repeated inner structure that has become familiar enough to feel normal, even when it creates suffering. This is why certain experiences seem to return in different forms. The same relationship wound appears with the different faces. The same money stress returns after every raise. The same career ceiling appears after every new opportunity. The same fear of being seen rises every time success comes close. The outer characters change, but the inner pattern remains. To the Hermetic student, this was not random repetition. It was consciousness asking to be understood. Reality becomes a mirror, not because life is punishing you, but because untransformed patterns seek expression until awareness interrupts them. What remains unseen within the self often returns through circumstance, behavior, attraction, avoidance, and reaction. Consider a freelance designer in Brooklyn who keeps attracting clients who do not respect her time. At first, she believes the problem is only the market. Then it happens again. A client delays payment. Another asks for extra work without extra pay. Another expects immediate responses late at night. Each situation appears different, yet the emotional pattern underneath feels strangely familiar. She feels anxious asking for what her work is worth. She over-explains her boundaries. She discounts her prices before anyone asks. She works beyond the agreement because a part of her still believes she must overgive to be chosen. The outer problem looks like difficult clients, but beneath it is an inner pattern of proving. Until that pattern is seen, the mirror continues. This does not mean the clients have no responsibility. They do. It does not mean she created their behavior with thought alone. Life is not that simplistic. But her untransformed pattern influences what she tolerates, what she communicates, what she avoids, and what she repeats. The mirror is not blame. The mirror is information. The same principle appears in relationships. A man may say he wants emotional closeness, but every time someone comes near, he becomes distant, critical, or unavailable. Later, he says, "No one ever stays." Yet if he observes honestly, he may discover that part of him leaves first, not physically, but emotionally. The old fear of being hurt creates the very distance he later mourns. Again, the pattern returns. A woman may say she wants more visibility in her career, but when opportunities appear, she delays, edits endlessly, avoids sending the proposal, or convinces herself she is not ready. From the outside, it looks like bad timing. Inside, it may be an old association between being seen and being judged. The mirror is not only showing what she wants, it is showing what she still fears receiving. Ancient wisdom asks for a different kind of honesty here. Not the harsh honesty that turns awareness into self-attack, but the disciplined honesty that can look at a repeated result and ask, what part of me keeps participating in this? That question is not easy because the ego prefers simpler answers. It wants to say it is always them. It is always the economy. It is always my past. It is always bad luck. Sometimes external forces are real and powerful, and wisdom does not deny them. But if the same pattern returns across different people, different places, and different seasons, the deeper student begins to look within. The pattern may be a belief. It may be a fear. It may be a nervous system that feels safer in familiar struggle than unfamiliar peace. It may be an identity built around being overlooked, overworked, abandoned, or underestimated. Whatever it is, it will continue shaping perception and behavior until consciousness becomes aware of it. This is why transformation is not only about desiring a new life. It is about becoming the version of yourself who no longer recreates the old one. So begin with one practice. Identify one loop that keeps appearing in your life. Choose a real pattern, not a vague complaint. It may be the same kind of relationship, the same financial pressure, the same unfinished project, the same fear before visibility, or the same emotional reaction during conflict. Then complete this sentence with honesty. This keeps happening because before it happens, I keep becoming. Do not rush the answer. Let it reveal the state you enter before the pattern repeats. Perhaps you keep becoming the person who overgives. Perhaps you keep becoming the person who hides. Perhaps you keep becoming the person who expects rejection before love has spoken. Perhaps you keep becoming the person who treats money as danger instead of responsibility. Once you see the state, you can begin changing the pattern at its root. Because reality does not only mirror what you want, it often mirrors what you have not yet transformed. And the moment the old pattern is met with awareness, the mirror begins to change. Chapter 12. Control what is yours. Once you begin seeing repeated patterns clearly, the next discipline is learning where your power actually belongs. The Stoics understood this with extraordinary precision. They taught that peace begins when a person separates what is within their control from what is not. Most suffering grows heavier because the mind spends its force trying to govern things that were never fully its own to command. Another person's opinion, a delayed answer, the economy, the past, the weather, the market, the mood of a room, the timing of an opportunity, or the decision someone else makes behind a closed door. When attention becomes trapped in what cannot be controlled, energy becomes divided. The mind argues with reality. The body tightens against uncertainty. The person loses strength not because they lack ability, but because their force is being spent in the wrong direction. This is why the Stoic path was not passive. It was disciplined. It did not say, do nothing. It said, stop wasting yourself on what is not yours so you can give full power to what is. You may not control the outcome, but you can govern your preparation. You may not control whether someone approves of you, but you can govern your integrity. You may not control the delay, but you can govern the meaning you attach to it. You may not control every external result, but you can govern your attention, your speech, your standards, your habits, your emotional direction, and your next action. This is where spiritual strength becomes practical. A person who tries to control everything becomes reactive, exhausted, and fearful. A person who controls what is truly theirs becomes focused. Their energy gathers, their vibration steadies. Their actions become cleaner because they are no longer leaking power into every possible outcome. Consider a man in Boston who has just been rejected from a job he wanted deeply. The email is brief, polite, and final. His first reaction is collapse. He wants to replay the interview, Imagine what the hiring manager thought, blame the process, compare himself with people online, and turn one rejection into a prophecy about his future. But then he pauses and separates the field. He cannot control the company's final decision. He cannot control who else applied. He cannot control whether the timing was right, whether internal politics were involved, or whether someone else had a connection he did not have. But he can control what he does next. He can review his answers honestly. He can improve his resume. He can send a respectful follow-up. He can practice the questions that unsettled him. He can apply again elsewhere before the rejection becomes an identity. He can refuse to let one closed door become the story of his worth. The rejection is outside his command. The response is not. This is the difference between helplessness and sovereignty. Hermetic wisdom approaches the same truth through the law of inner order. If the inner world is scattered by every external movement, the person becomes a servant of circumstance. But when the inner world is governed, even difficult events no longer have full authority over consciousness. The outer event may still matter, but it no longer owns the entire state. This does not mean becoming cold, detached, or indifferent. It means caring without surrendering your center. It means wanting the result, but not handing your identity to the result. It means acting fully while accepting that life may still move through forces beyond your control. A farmer cannot command the weather, but he can prepare the soil. A sailor cannot command the ocean, but he can adjust the sail. A writer cannot command applause, but she can govern the sentence before her. A person cannot command every outcome, but they can choose the quality of consciousness they bring to the next step. That choice is power. So begin with one practice. Take a situation that currently feels heavy. Write 2 columns. In the first column, write, what I cannot control, be honest. Put there the opinions, reactions, timelines, decisions, market conditions, past events, and unknown outcomes that your mind has been trying to control. In the second column, write, what I can govern today. Put there your preparation, your breath, your schedule, your words, your focus, your boundaries, your effort, your honesty, your willingness to learn, and the next aligned action available to you. Then make a sacred decision. Your energy will go to the second column, not because the first column does not matter, but because it is not where your power lives. Every time the mind drifts back into what cannot be controlled, return it gently to what can be governed. This is not weakness. It is energetic precision. Because the person who tries to control everything becomes controlled by everything. But the person who controls what is truly theirs begins to move through life with a different force. Their vibration becomes less dependent on chaos, less shaken by delay, less ruled by opinion, and less broken by uncertainty. They no longer beg reality to become predictable before they become powerful. They become powerful by governing what is theirs now. Chapter 13. The Principle of Polarity. Ancient Hermetic wisdom teaches that opposites are not always separate forces. Often they are 2 degrees of the same energy. Hot and cold belong to temperature. Light and darkness belong to illumination. Fear and courage belong to the same inner line. Pain and wisdom may rise from the same wound. Anger and disciplined action may come from the same fire. This is the principle of polarity. To the untrained mind, fear is only fear. Anger is only anger. Pain is only suffering. But to the Hermetic student, every lower state contains the possibility of a higher expression. The work is not to destroy the energy. The work is to move it upward. A frightened person may say, I am weak. But fear, when observed, can become preparation. It can sharpen the senses, clarify what matters, and reveal where strength must be built. An angry person may say, I am losing control. But anger, when purified, can become disciplined action. It can become the force that sets a boundary, finishes the work, speaks the truth, or changes a pattern that has lasted too long. A person in pain may say, this has broken me. But pain, when brought into awareness, can become wisdom. It can deepen compassion, remove illusion, and reveal what the old self could no longer carry. The energy itself is not the enemy. Unconscious identification is the danger. Imagine a man preparing to speak in front of hundreds of people in Dallas. His heart beats quickly. His hands feel cold. His breathing becomes shallow. The old interpretation says, this means I cannot do it. But a different consciousness says, this is energy. This is my body preparing me to rise. The sensation is similar. The direction is different. One version collapses into fear. The other lifts fear into courage. This is polarity in motion. Modern life often teaches people to label emotions too quickly. If they feel nervous, they call themselves anxious. If they feel anger, they call themselves negative. If they feel sadness, they assume they are failing. But ancient wisdom asks for more precision. Do not turn a passing state into a permanent identity. Say instead, fear is present and it can become courage. Say anger is present and it can become discipline. Say pain is present and it can become wisdom. This is not pretending, it is direction. The Stoics understood this as emotional training. They did not expect life to remove discomfort before strength could appear. They trained themselves to meet discomfort without surrendering their inner command. So today, when a lower emotion appears, pause before naming it as who you are. Ask, what is the higher expression of this same energy? Can fear become preparation? Can anger become action? Can grief become compassion? Can desire become devotion? The moment you ask this, consciousness stops sinking and begins moving. Because your vibration rises not when you reject your emotions, but when you learn to refine them. The lower state is not the end. It is the raw material. Chapter 14, The Principle of Rhythm. Ancient Hermetic wisdom teaches that everything moves in rhythm. Nothing stays fixed forever. The tide rises and falls, seasons change, breath moves in and out, and even the strongest emotions pass through cycles of expansion and contraction. No wave rises forever, and no wave falls forever. This is the principle of rhythm. To the untrained mind, every emotional low feels permanent. A difficult week becomes, my life is falling apart. A slow season becomes, nothing is working. A moment of uncertainty becomes, I will never find my way. The mind forgets that it is watching a movement, not an eternal condition. The same mistake happens during success. A person receives praise, money, attention, or momentum, and suddenly believes the high will last forever. They become careless, inflated, or dependent on the feeling. Then the rhythm changes, as it always does, and the fall feels like betrayal. But life did not betray them. They misunderstood rhythm. The Hermetic student learns not to worship the high and not to collapse inside the low. Both are movements, both are temporary, both reveal something, but neither should be allowed to become identity. A farmer understands this better than most modern minds. He does not curse winter as failure, because he knows winter is not the end of the field. Beneath the frozen ground, invisible processes continue. The soil rests, roots strengthen, and the coming season prepares itself in silence. If he judged the entire year by winter alone, he would abandon the harvest before spring had a chance to return. Human life moves the same way. There are seasons of action and seasons of waiting, seasons of growth and seasons of pruning, seasons when energy expands outward and seasons when it gathers inward. A person who does not understand rhythm panics every time life becomes quiet. But quiet does not always mean nothing is happening. Sometimes quiet is where the next strength is being formed. Consider a content creator in California whose video suddenly goes viral. Overnight, views rise, comments flood in, and attention feels like proof that everything is finally working. For a moment, confidence turns into identity. Then the next video performs poorly. The numbers drop, the comments slow, and the same person who felt chosen last week now feels invisible. Nothing about their soul changed in 7 days. Only the rhythm changed. The high revealed possibility, the low revealed attachment. This is why rhythm is such a powerful teacher. It shows where your identity is still tied to movement outside you. If success makes you arrogant, the rhythm will expose it. If failure makes you collapse, the rhythm will expose it. If silence makes you doubt your path, the rhythm will expose it. The Stoics called for steadiness in the face of changing conditions. Not emotional numbness, but inner balance. They knew that a person ruled by every rise and fall cannot remain sovereign for long. The mood of the day becomes their master. The number on the screen becomes their master. The reaction of others becomes their master. The wise person learns to navigate. A skilled sailor does not command the ocean to become still. He studies the tide, adjusts the sail, and keeps direction. When the wind changes, he does not declare the journey cursed. He changes his relationship to the wind. This is mental resilience. So when you are in a low rhythm, do not turn it into a prophecy. Do not say, this will never change. Say instead, this is a season, and I will move through it with awareness. Use the low to simplify, listen, restore, and strengthen what the high may have ignored. When you are in a high rhythm, do not let it intoxicate you. Receive it, enjoy it, but stay grounded. Use the high to build, serve, prepare, and remain humble enough to keep your center. The practice is simple. Do not make permanent decisions from temporary emotional extremes. Do not quit your path because of one low moment. And do not build your identity on one high moment. Observe the rhythm, respect the rhythm, but do not become the rhythm. Because the person who understands rhythm no longer begs life to stay the same before they feel safe. They learn to remain steady while life moves. And that steadiness becomes a vibration reality can trust. Chapter 15, Equanimity, the power that does not collapse. After you understand rhythm, a deeper discipline becomes possible: equanimity. Equanimity is the power to remain inwardly steady while life rises and falls around you. It is not emotional numbness. It is not pretending that success feels the same as failure or that praise feels the same as criticism. It is the ability to feel what happens without handing your identity over to it. The Stoics considered this one of the highest forms of inner strength. A person who is lifted too high by praise will also be destroyed too easily by criticism. A person who becomes intoxicated by success will become shattered when success changes form. A person who builds identity on external results must live in constant fear, because external results are never fully under human command. Hermetic wisdom teaches the same truth through vibration. If your inner state rises only when the outer world approves of you, then your vibration is not sovereign. It is borrowed. It belongs to the room, the audience, the algorithm, the market, the relationship, the bank account, or the opinion of another person. And what is borrowed can be taken. Equanimity is the moment you begin carrying your state from within. Consider a woman in Nashville who finally receives recognition for work she has quietly built for years. A project succeeds, people praise her, new opportunities appear. For a moment it feels as if life has confirmed her worth. But slowly, without noticing, she begins depending on that confirmation. Every comment matters, every number matters, every response becomes a measurement of identity. Then the rhythm changes. A later project receives less attention, the praise becomes quieter. The momentum slows. Nothing essential about her talent has disappeared, yet inside, she feels as if she has lost herself. This is the danger of attaching identity to movement. The high did not create her worth. The low did not remove it. Both only revealed where her sense of self was still tied to the outside world. The same lesson appears through failure. A man makes a mistake in public. A presentation goes poorly. A business decision does not work. The old mind says, "This proves who I am." But equanimity says this reveals something to learn, not something to worship as identity. Praise is temporary, criticism is temporary, confidence is temporary, fear is temporary. Even the image other people hold of you is temporary, shifting with their mood, memory, expectation, and limited perception. If you let every temporary thing define you, your inner world will never become stable. The sovereign mind receives success without becoming arrogant and receives failure without becoming broken. It does not reject praise, but it does not kneel before it. It does not ignore criticism, but it does not let criticism become a throne from which shame rules the self. This is not weakness. This is refined strength. Modern culture trains the opposite. It teaches people to measure themselves through numbers, visibility, income, applause, comparison, and speed. A person can begin the morning feeling whole, then lose that wholeness because of one email, one comment, one metric, one silence. One person's approval withheld. The outer world moves slightly, and the inner world collapses completely. Ancient wisdom asks for another way. When something good happens, receive it fully, but say within yourself, "This is welcome, but it is not my identity." When something painful happens, face it honestly, but say, "This is difficult, but it is not my identity." This practice does not make you indifferent. It makes you free enough to respond clearly. You can still celebrate. You can still grieve. You can still improve, apologize, rebuild, or begin again. But you no longer let every event rewrite the deepest truth of who you are. Equanimity is the vibration that does not collapse when the mirror changes. It is the state that remains awake beneath praise and blame, gain and loss, rise and fall. It is the quiet power of a person who has stopped asking the world to stay still before they feel safe. So today, practice remaining with yourself through both movement and stillness. If success comes, let it pass through gratitude instead of ego. If failure comes, let it pass through wisdom instead of shame. If praise comes, receive it without addiction. If criticism comes, examine it without surrendering your center. Because the highest vibration is not the one that depends on perfect circumstances. It is the one that remains coherent when circumstances change. And when your mind, emotion, attention, and action no longer collapse with every external movement, you become the kind of presence reality can no longer easily shake. You become steady. You become sovereign. You become the signal. Outro, the return to inner power. You began this journey believing vibration was only a feeling. Now you understand something deeper. Vibration is thought repeated until it becomes atmosphere. It is emotion directed until it becomes strength. It is attention protected until it becomes power. It is judgment examined before it becomes identity. It is reaction transformed before it becomes destiny. The ancient Hermetic teachers did not speak of vibration as a passing mood. They spoke of the hidden condition of consciousness through which reality is perceived, interpreted, and met. The Stoics did not teach inner discipline to make the soul cold. They taught it because a person who cannot govern the inner world becomes ruled by every movement of the outer world. Now you have seen the pattern. The mind translates reality. Judgment creates experience. Old shadows distort perception. Attention feeds vibration. Energy leaks through unconscious reaction. Pressure can become power. The outer world often mirrors the inner pattern. Rhythm teaches steadiness. Equanimity reveals the power that does not collapse. And through all of it, one truth remains. Reality does not obey noise. It obeys coherence. You do not raise your vibration by pretending pain does not exist. You raise it by refusing to let pain become your identity. You do not become powerful by controlling every event. You become powerful by governing the part of life that still belongs to you. Your attention, your interpretation, your response, your discipline, your speech, your state, and your next aligned action. You do not change the mirror by attacking the reflection. You change the mirror by returning to the source of the signal. This is the return to inner power, not the power of force, not the power of panic, not the power of chasing, begging, proving, or controlling, but the quiet power of a person whose mind is no longer scattered in every direction. The power of a person who can feel fear without becoming fear, feel pressure without collapsing, receive success without losing humility, and meet failure without surrendering identity. You were never powerless. You were only divided by old judgments, divided by inherited shadows, divided by attention given away too easily, divided by emotional reactions that moved faster than awareness. But every time you observe a thought instead of obeying it, power returns. Every time you pause before reacting, power returns. Every time you reclaim attention from what weakens you, power returns. Every time you choose the higher expression of an emotion, power returns. And as power returns, your signal changes. Your vibration becomes less dependent on perfect circumstances. Your mind becomes clearer. Your choices become cleaner. Your presence becomes steadier. And slowly, life begins to respond to a different version of you. This is not fantasy. It is disciplined participation. The world you see is not only outside you. It is shaped, moment by moment, by the state you keep becoming. So return to this teaching whenever your energy feels scattered. Listen again, observe again, practice again. Because the ancient secret was never that reality obeys your wishes. It obeys the consciousness you live from. And when your mind, emotion, attention, and action become coherent, you stop begging life to change before you do. You become the signal, you become the order, you become the vibration reality begins to obey.